Kia ora everyone. 3 minutes to go. Invite. Hi Spiderhoof, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Maori ora. Kia ora.
Yep, there we go. Ha'avina. Just sitting tight, just having some ice cream while I've got 2 minutes to spare.
How is everyone's ready for Christmas now? Have you finished working for the year or are you still working?
No, I finished working for the year last week and I'm off till the 10th of January.
Yeah, I'm off too.
Yeah, hi Whaea. I'm actually at a tangi at the moment.
Oh, that sounds more fun than what I'm doing. I've just been watching Spider-Man.
Oh,
That's
have
it.
you?
Yeah,
There's
just
nothing wrong with
having a
Spider-Man.
lazy Sunday. It is Sunday.
Mm.
No, of course not.
How'd you find your
And that,
BHN
yeah.
interview on Friday?
It wasn't an interview. It was a group of us who are going to regularly get together and have some chats. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think I
Mm-hmm.
saw you in the comments, didn't I?
Yeah, I was there for I think about an hour.
I shouted this one out at the end as well, just so you know. I said that this was happening
Awesome, thank you.
when I was on that show. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, thank you.
Kia ora korua. I'm just doing some life admin. I'm going to put myself on mute while I coordinate the kids.
Light admin. Yeah.
Kia ora. You're more than welcome to do that. Hey Melissa. Hi everybody in the chat. Thank you to our awesome moderator Whaea. Hey Kiwi girl, nice to see you. Nero.
Does anyone in the chat have a question for us while we're getting ourselves
That's
together?
a good idea. If you have any questions, chuck them out. Thank you, John L. Just waiting on Rihanna and our special guest, Tamitha. Hey, Mike. How you doing, man? Hey, Pans. Thank you. There you go, Spiderhoof. How are we going to stop privatisation of our health system?
I just don't think that it'll get across the line. I think people have seen in the US how detrimental it is to people's well-being. Just a minor injury can end up bankrupting people, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to prove that that's not the way we should be going. And I doubt that anyone, and many people, at least in the New Zealand population, would go for it. I mean, we know how precious it is. And I think that we will be definitely able to deter it from happening.
Yeah. Kiwi Girl said, let's talk about the new coalition, Greens, Māori Party, Labour. Do you think that will get over the line?
I absolutely do think that will get over the line. And I think that we're going to get close very soon to maybe the Greens being more of the powerhouse than they have been. And certainly, yeah, so there'll be actually more of an equal distribution of the coalition via votes. I think that that's starting to look likely, but not necessarily this election, but it's building, if you know what I mean. So yeah, and Green Party has ruled in other lands, so it's certainly not impossible based on what's happened. Or was it? I think it's the Netherlands. They had their Green Party in charge, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I'd like to add that I think if those three can work it out pre-election, so that we already know that we've got a coalition agreement going, I think that would help our chances. Hi, Rihanna.
Kia ora, kia ora. Good to be here.
How you doing?
Yeah, all good.
And we're just
Thanks,
asking
Eco
some of the...
Warrior. The Eco Warrior must have watched me on BHN the other day, where I did a speech to
yes.
King Charles, telling
Yeah.
him, hey, now's the time, it's happening now, don't wait for your grandchildren to be the people who have to apologize for you not saying anything now. And I think that is actually an important message for us to keep carrying on, to be honest, because this coalition is speaking on behalf of that crown. So for him to say nothing now is repeating the mistakes of the past, and he should definitely be taking note that it's not the right way to go, and it hasn't been for a really long time.
Yeah, I agree. How are you doing, Rihanna? How was your day today?
Yeah, all good. Just been
Yeah?
just been chilling. This was supposed to start at 8, not 7.
Yeah, no, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay, come by. Sorry.
Yes, you're still late, but that's okay.
Chill out.
Well, I know you want it relaxed, as not too what's the word, not too serious. But yeah, hey, no, come in late. It's all good. That's the way to make an entrance.
Sorry.
Best host ever.
What do you? Trying to be. Rihanna, what do you think about Māori Party, Greens Party, and Labour sorting out a coalition before we get to the election? So we already know, because we all vote for those three parties, we already know what we're in for. What do you think?
Yep, it sounds like a good idea. I haven't really thought about it, eh? Basically my dream aim would be to see the Green Party be the default party. It still blows my mind that the Green Party is considered radical. Like, our international airport was literally underwater, and people still reckon the Green Party policies on climate change are still going too far. Like, there was our international airport, bro. Like,
Yeah. What about you, Third Space?
I'll live the dream, for sure. I think that I've been loving hearing more kōrero from the left about how they're thinking about working strategically, and looking at where they can each align on different areas of significance for them. And I think that's the way forward. I also think it's really healthy to have those spaces of nuance where it's not, we don't have to be 100% all aligned and in agreement. And at the same time, like, how can we leverage our skills and our passions for the greater good? And I just hope that it holds through, the next 18 months, 2 years through the campaigning, because I think there's some real potential there to see a very strong left block. And I would love to see, as all of you I think have said, that Greens gaining. It is funny, like, hearing that they're kind of still thought of as radical. I just listened to Roger Douglas, an old interview from a year ago, and he calls, the Greens are like, radicals. And it's like, really?
That's just propaganda, and it only comes from people who are anti progressive ways of thinking. So and all they have to rely on is saying things like, "Oh, it's radical to think that we want to save the environment." I mean, it's not. It's not radical at all. And so yeah, it's just pure propaganda from people like him.
Anti-reality, anti-intellectualism, it's anti a lot of things, eh?
That's right. And it's said by people who want to mine our country. So, they've all got their fingers in the pockets of oil and mining and everything else. And so, of course, they're going to say, oh, it's crazy to think we could get away without mining. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to obviously have a battle getting us over the line, dealing with all the mis and disinformation that is thrown out from those parties that are in government, especially National. I think last time
National and ACT are in the same camp. That National and ACT both work through the TPU.
Yeah,
and that propaganda machine. Yeah.
I think it was the last time I did a live, I read and saw something from Duncan Garner. Duncan Garner said that it almost looks like that the National Party's TikTok page, which is Chris Luxon's and National Party's, is more about propaganda than it is about information.
Yes.
Because they are only concentrating on the little things that they are getting right, but not answering any of the other questions. Especially with the way that we're struggling in a cost of living crisis, and yet our Prime Minister can make $1 million tax-free from selling 3 rentals.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And by things he means, he thinks about getting right is like cracking down on teenagers wearing red caps.
Yeah. But again, it's something that Kaimatara did a video on. It's about slogans and simple messages to their supporters, and gangs are a easy target for them.
And youth offenders and all that sort of thing. I mean, the reality is that propaganda machine created a shitstorm as far as the RAM ratings are concerned. So the more they advertised it by saying RAM raiders, they can do it so easily, the more it happened, and they did that on purpose. And then somebody died, and they had to stop for a minute. But they did that on purpose. That was the whole plan, was to keep it in the press, keep advertising, keep saying it, telling everyone how easy it is, and making it a thing. They did that on purpose.
Yeah. We know they're out of touch and everything else, but it's a fight that we have to keep fighting. We're still 2 years out from the election. Pansy said, notice how they've stopped reporting on the RAM raids. Does anyone want to speak to that?
It was because it was a propaganda machine. That's why they did it. It was a pure propaganda machine. That whole RAM raid chat, and then add that to, now we're going to get military youth offender boot camps going, and then as a sales slogan, because they put this fear mongering into the world of RAM raiding being what it was, and then we're going to be tough on crime. We're also going to take out gangs. RAM raiders are associated to gangs, so we're going to, and so that it's all just propaganda. It's nothing else. There's no intent behind it other than to have PR stunts happen. That's it. And that Mark Mitchell campaign, where he went out onto the steps of Parliament to meet with Matilda and her friend, her crew, friends, group, Hikoid there, and his edit of it was pure propaganda spin. And then I posted the actual video of it, what really happened, and they were saying, we're not in a gang, what are you talking about, stop it, you're labeling us wrong, and all this sort of thing. And it was completely different to what he posted on his page, because it was just a propaganda machine. So it was nothing else. And the thing is that once I think that actually ended up being my highest watched video for a while there, because everyone's like, holy moly, his one is so different to what actually happened, because they edited it down to make it look like he was confronting gang members. Yeah, it was wild and inappropriate. Sorry, I'll keep banging on. I'll shut up for a minute now. Sorry.
Hey, I've got a question that Rihanna, you might be able to speak on a little bit around. So Kiwi Girl on Tour has just asked about the police tactics around gangs at Tangi, and I was reading something or listening to something. You know, it kind of came across my senses at some point around how actually the gangs, you know, how this whole banning gang pictures is a breach of human rights, and how that could actually be challenged, but that the lawmakers know that, you know, the chances of gangs actually taking it to a court would be quite slim. But the more I sort of see it in terms of the optics and in terms of what Kiwi Girl on Tour is saying here, you know, that harassment of what is happening for whānau at Tangi, and how incredibly inappropriate that is, and what a displacement and inappropriate use of resources. I guess I'm interested to kind of, from your perspective and the legal perspective of like, yeah, that in terms of the Bill of Rights and in terms of impinging on the freedoms of others, and where that might sit, and what that course might be in terms of countering this bullshit.
Yeah, that's good for Carol. I haven't looked into it enough to give kind of a definite opinion, but it's definitely a breach of the freedom of expression. The thing, to my knowledge, the thing with Bill of Rights, though, is that we have all these like human rights and these things that are protected, but you're allowed to restrict them in certain circumstances. You just have to justify why it's been restricted in a certain way. So I'm guessing, I haven't looked into it enough. Law with Rhea will know this, but it would have been intimidating.
Sorry. Where I see this falling over is that they're going to target the wrong people who aren't associated at all, but they saw somebody with a red hat on in a house, because that's what this power is giving them. They can just walk into any house where they think there's gang insignia, and that's their excuse. No warrant, no just cause other than that. And so they're going to start walking into people's houses who have nothing to do with it, nothing at all. And they've used that as an excuse. And that's when lawyers are going to get involved and just hammer this against the government as hard as they can, because there's a lot of money to make out of suing the government. So the police and everybody else are actually setting themselves up a little bit by allowing them to be brought before criminal courts based on their lack of objective reason to enter somebody's home. And I think that is probably where it's unfortunately going to be the worst cases, where, innocent people are targeted just because they had a rogue cops, or, it's a red T-shirt, I'm going to go get them, and they're just ordinary citizens going about their business with no criminality attached to them at all. So I do see how that may end up being quite a detrimental thing to the police's reputation, as well as the legality of breaching human rights. And lawyers will be all over it. There'll be some lawyers out there just waiting for one to happen so that they can start making money from it. Yeah.
My thing on it is, the government know they're breaking the law. Michael Laws, when he was mayor of Whanganui, he did the same thing, but the gangs there took him to court, and he had to overturn it. The issue that government has or doesn't have is the gangs as a collective taking the government to court, because if somebody wants to take them to court, etc., obviously there's going to be a cost involved. And who's going to front the bill, I guess. So I know from what I've read about the Bill of Rights and dealing with all that through the C word period, I think they do know they're breaking the law, but they're kind of challenging the gangs to say, well, take us to court. You left and then they'll just bleed it out. And how are they going to pay for that? Well,
Right.
that's the thing. That's my take on it.
Wouldn't it be, somebody in the comment section just made me think of this. Wouldn't it be fantastic if the police went in and arrested a Santa who was climbing in to like give presents to kids because he was wearing red and they mistook him for a gang member? I don't know, but like that would be fabulous. Sorry. It would hit all the headlines in the right way, I think.
Yeah.
Taking away Santa's human rights. Yeah.
Well, actually,
But yeah.
on that, bit of a segue, but not really. But a few years ago here in Nelson, in Whakatū, they had the Santa parade, and the Santa was a Maori Santa, and it was beautiful. You know, I wasn't here at the time; I was a couple of hours away, but came down the street on a float wearing beautiful red coat, holding a mātou, a hook, and you know, sort of reminiscent of like Maui. And instead of celebrating it, the good folks of Nelson got really, really up in arms about the Maori Santa.
Wow.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
right.
no, they were real.
How long ago was this?
I would say four to five Christmases ago.
Oh my God, I thought you were telling me something that happened in the 80s.
No, not the 80s. No, welcome to Nelson. Or, yeah, definitely not Whakatū with those stories. But, yeah, so that was a thing. Bit of a segue.
4 years ago,
but you got me there.
Oh.
Hey, Tania. Hi, Tans. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. Hey, thank you for jumping in. I'm waiting for Tam to join us. I'm not sure. She may be busy, but you know it's okay. I saw you jump in. I thought I'd add you, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the Treaty Principles Bill because we've all got a huge interest in that. And then also maybe we could touch the RSB bill.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So tell us, chat to us about the Treaty Principles Bill, and then I get Third Space, Rihanna, and Spider to add their pieces to it.
Sure. So I have no idea how I ended up on this live, other than Mike pinged me. but we're always
Mike.
ready. But we're always ready to talk about my favorite topic. So obviously over the last it's only been about a month actually. We've been promoting for people to put submissions in opposition to the Treaty Principles Bill. We've run quite a few workshops now, both online and in real life as well. And I guess the main focus of what we've been trying to do with our workshops is really just to give people a really broad overview of what the bill is and what the impacts of the bill will be if it was passed. And just encouraging people and giving them some tools to help them write their submissions and just teaching them how the process works really, because what we've discovered is that most people haven't made a submission to a select committee before. They don't really understand what the process is or how easy it is as well. So we've just been trying to break down those barriers for our people, make it accessible. And we did a class with my son's kura a couple of weeks ago. Whole bunch of 11-year-olds made their submissions with us. So it's a really simple process. That's what we've been up to for the last month or so.
You've been doing some good work as well. I've been noticing all the stuff that you've been doing. Do you know much about the RSB bill? Because I know Third Space has been reading a lot about the RSB, and it'll be a really good thing to cover off tonight as well, because I think a lot of us probably think, we've done our treaty submissions bill, we've done our work, done our job, but I think they need to understand what the RSB is and what it could possibly mean to New Zealanders. And it doesn't matter whether you sit on the left or the right in terms of the political spectrum.
Yeah, that's very true. I've been watching Third Space as well, and she definitely knows a lot more about the RSP than I do, because I have been fully focusing all of my energy on the Treaty Principles Bill, because it's my little bugbear. It's been that way for a while now. But yes, that particular bill, the ramifications of that are extremely broad reaching, the same as the Treaty Principles Bill. I think what's quite insidious about it as well is that if you're like me and you're a bit of a cynic, you'd almost say that they've deliberately pushed them through at the same time, while everyone's so distracted with the Treaty Principles Bill, so that they can kind of slide this one in under the radar. And the other thing too about the Registry of Standards Bill is that I am fairly sure that Mr. Seymour deliberately chose that portfolio as one that he wanted. And the reason why he did that is that you can have so much impact in so many really practical, everyday things in that ministry. And he's done it, or he's already started doing it. The ECE reforms that not even reforms. See, this is what I mean. You can tinker with so many things through regulations. And he's already started through his new ministry and his new staff that he's put on, lovely salaries, and they're all wandering off going, oh, we don't need these rules, we don't need these regulations, we don't need this, we don't need that. So anyway, it is a very concerning piece of legislation, and it is very detailed oriented. And I think that was very deliberate as well, because so many people don't have time to read the detail and to understand what the impacts of that legislation are. And while everyone is over here and quite rightly outraged and upset and yelling against the Treaty Principles Bill, they are very sneakily sliding that one in alongside it. So yeah, I've been very grateful to watch Third Space's content, actually. So shout out to you for that, because I've been trying to hold down my day job and do all this stuff on the side at the same time. So I am definitely grateful for all the updates coming through from the other creators too. It's really useful.
Kia koe hoki, moto mahi tino kaha, ki te TPB e hoa. Like it was awesome just to see, your content's just, it's just been so consistent in coming through and speaking to and reaching so many people. So I totally hear you on that. You have to focus, we've got to focus our energy on something, and like you say, we're all sort of holding down lives, jobs as well. But yeah, it's scary. It's scary what he's doing. I agree with everything you've said about him picking on this, getting this role as this Minister of Regulation, and then being able to build that plane while he's flying it to the moon, pulling in the people that he wants to pull in. There's very little regulation on the regulation, if you will, and being able to use it, when something's new, there's not sort of existing structures or ways of how things have been done. So he's got this sort of very open book in front of him, and then flouting, in light of all of these massive cuts and the criticism of these people are being paid over 100K, and he's just like, here, have 150K, here, do this, here, do that. I mean, at every level there's that arrogance, right? But like you say, he's reaching across into every sector, and that's what worries me so much about this bill, is that it has come at the same time as the TPB. The two of them have a relationship to one another, and when you read them in light of the other one, it's like there's some quite alarming things that you can start to project ahead and think, well, shit, what does this mean in terms of individuals and individual rights, and who are we talking about? We're talking about individuals, but also this has been on the table for so long, and it's come from Roger Douglas, who's still going, 87, checked the other day, and it's been shot down numerous times by numerous parties, and now it's not only, they're not saying it's going to select committee, they're saying this bill, as part of that coalition agreement, will be passed. And that to me is like, heck, Then I look at the actual what can you do when you submit, and how tricky it is to submit. 36 questions of blah. It's really worrying that these two are coming as one.
I totally tautoko everything that you've said. I do think it's a strategic placing of the two pieces of legislation to put them through at the same time. And I also think that they have very clearly thought about the reach that they can get with the RSB. And they've also thought about the fact that it's one of those bills that on the face of it, there's nothing sexy about it, right? There's nothing inflammatory. There's nothing that immediately pops out and makes you go, oh, what is that? Is that something we should be worried about? But then when you get into the nitty gritty of it, it's so far reaching in terms of what they can do. And the other scary thing about it, obviously, is the relationship with the pullback of the treaty clauses and all of the other pieces of legislation. And that review is going to go ahead regardless of whether the TPB passes or not. So when you kind of forecast ahead to the end of this 3 years, if this government gets that far, the potential legislative framework that we're left with, it could be very ugly. It could be very ugly. And I'm that's what I'm most concerned about. My concern is how much damage are they going to be able to do to our country in the next 2 years? And how, we're kind of in the mode at the moment where, yes, we have been able to mobilize. Yes, we have been able to some extent, to reach a level of kotaitanga that we probably haven't seen for a long time. With Te Ao Māori, which is amazing, and that's been a really positive outcome to the challenges that are in front of us. But I guess I think I'm a bit like Third Space. I'm always 10 steps ahead of where we are right now and looking at what are the potential challenges that we're going to face in this upcoming year. I definitely think that there is value, and I think we're doing it naturally as well. There are a lot of us who sort of speak behind the scenes, and we try to spread our energy a little bit to target different things, because there's only so much free time that people have alongside raising our families and doing our regular jobs. So I definitely had those conversations with a few people and said, look, this is going to be my focus and this is what I'm going to try and tackle. But at the same time, we're all talking about all of these bills at the same time, and we're trying to make sure that we've got at least some people doing this while others do that. But yeah, it's definitely been a very full-on year this year.
Spiderhoof, do you want to go next and offer your opinion about it, and then I'll get Whaea to say a few words?
Well, we all know that it's a coalition thing where David Seymour got his regulatory hat, and it's made up. And it's made up on purpose to, like you said, satisfy the ability to do whatever the F he wants. Just like on the other side with Winston's team, Shane Jones was given that, $2 billion, $1.2 billion, whatever it is, slush fund to, do whatever he wants with. It's all so close to be criminal that I feel like our government needs to shake up as far as what they should and shouldn't be capable of doing. However, I think we just have to wait it out, and hopefully Winston tosses toys once Seymour takes over and it just implodes the whole coalition and everything falls apart and nothing gets done. But at the same time, I just hope that these things are reversible when the government does change hands. And that would be the really important thing. But the number one thing I'm going to say is that, this is time consuming, and I really want to let everyone know how hard this is. Like, I've been having quite a quiet year because I went really hard last year before the election. So this year I've been a little bit less energy to it because it is all consuming. It does take a lot of effort to do the content, and always been going through all these very tough pieces of information so that we can boil them down into ordinary words. It is tough, it is hard work, and so I just want to say how much I appreciate how much you guys are doing. because I do feel the same, that you can definitely get exhausted by it. But I love that you're focusing on one thing, and I also do that too. And my one thing is, hey, this is the bad guys. This is why. And where I can, I will try and like teach about why this legislation is terrible or good or bad or whatever else, the thing, of course, on the side. But yeah, that's why I don't necessarily promote other parties or anything else. I'm just fully just always saying these are the bad guys. This is why. So
Yeah.
that focus thing is really, really helpful, and I found that out quite early, that I need to just focus on one thing because there's so much. It's so difficult. So I do appreciate you guys and how you're working on certain things and putting in so much effort in, and thank you so much for that.
Kia ora. Whaea, how are you?
Oh, I'm very good, thank you very much. I'm just getting ready to go into Christmas, and I've got everything all over the place, and the mokos will be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's a game in
Do you want to add
itself, eh?
some? Yeah, definitely. Do you want to add your I'd say 10 cents worth or 20 cents worth about the bills that are currently going through?
Aroha mai. I'm not a lawyer. Aroha mai. I'm not an economist, but my space is the politics and how politics are framed. And I've found it quite interesting because recently I'm retired. So aroha mai, to Spiderhoof, for the amount of content that needs to be made in order to deliver some sort of resonance with the people to say, hey, this is what is happening in our country. And it's very difficult to do that because it's so complex when you've got bills piling on top of each other, and you've got the ordinary person. I'm not talking about just Maori, but the ordinary person are looking at all these bills coming at them at 1,000 miles an hour, and they're being given different ways in which to understand these bills. It's just so difficult. I didn't enter into the arena until at least 6 months ago, and the only reason I entered into this arena is that I actually felt sorry for the people themselves, because it doesn't take rocket science to understand what this government was doing since the time they came in, nor does it take any more rocket science to understand that even though governments of the day have the ability to make changes for the betterment of the community, whoever that community is, and that we also know that traditionally when the next government is, we're able to reverse it. But my question has always been, and one of the reasons why I've entered back into the political space, is that the question that niggles me is that the next incoming government, will they reverse it? Because we've got a history where governments have brought into power forms of legislation and they haven't undone them. They've not reversed them. What we've got a mesh of laws that are coming in on top of each other, and it came to the head when we saw the RSP come forward. I was absolutely stunned to see that they admit that they had been making, in the past, poor laws. And it was poorly made. So my question is, do we as the people keep going the way we are? Because if we are, I'm sorry, you guys are going to burn out, and you're going to burn out hard. Or does somebody put a doorstop in the road and say, no, enough is enough. You've done a poor job. Fix the goddamn thing. Do that now. But instead what we've got is we've got a woven matrix of confusion. Bills piling on top of bills.
Yeah. It's,
Ngati Professor, he's saying, maybe ceding away from the Crown is on the table. Now, when you're looking at ceding away from the Crown, that comes with its own issues. The thing is that when you park up the emotion to it all and you're left with raw politics, you have got a political system that is actually unhealthy and it is broken. And you're trying to fix it with cracked glass.
Yeah.
Well, That's my whakaaro. Do I know the answer to the question? No, I don't know what the answer to the question, but maybe somebody has to put that doorstop up. I, for myself, think that one of those main doorstops is going to be Te Tiriti, because it's not being cracked as much as the others have. Because remember, the legislation coming forward since the 1800s is all managed to be cracked, and it resonates regulation. They've made and admitted to poor laws. Give me a break, somebody. Just give me a break.
So what we have in this country is we have a lack of media, and as much as the opposition parties are doing what they can to protect us, as you said, Whaea, there's so many things going through the system. I just want to read a quote that was put out today from a news article, and then I'll tell you who it was from. They need to rip shit and bust, slash unnecessary spending, cut tens of thousands more public service jobs, scrap ministries we don't need, bring in private money to pay for the things we don't have to, do something brave to attract international investors. And for those who don't know who that was Heather Duplessis Allen, and she is obviously with News Talk ZB, but her husband is Barry Soper from the New Zealand Herald. So you have the government pushing through all this legislation, but then you have half the media, if not 70% of the media, that's actually ignoring the stuff that they're doing and not making the people aware, because it's in their best interest as well. So they see the benefits of it because they're going to basically reap the rewards of it. And because of Atlas, and we don't know where this money is going and how it's all been filtered in left, right and centre, our poor opposition parties are left trying to pick up the pieces, and then it's left to social media, the likes of myself and you guys who are doing your research, bringing it to the fore and letting our followers know. But as you said, Whaea, it's 2 more years of this. And the thing we need to remember is that the RSB bill does not work in favour of New Zealanders, and New Zealand First is supposed to be about New Zealanders. So if New Zealand
That's
First
the thing
passed
about
this
RSB.
bill,
You're quite correct about RSB. It works for no one.
it works for no one.
Well,
And
it
it's
works in
it's not
favour of-
race related.
I'm
It
just
works
thinking
for no one.
Heather was quite on the money though, like works for that. That's the rhetoric. Exactly what that quote was. That's the premise of the RSB right there. Open it up, attract overseas investors, cut red tape, and it's an ideology. It's not something that's actually. Has it worked in America? How's it going? How's it going in the US?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the closest
You're currently
cousin.
killing CEOs of new healthcare companies in the US. That's how it's going over there.
So really successful.
Oh, kapai.
Oh, really?
The doctrine of pace. I heard that quote the other day, the doctrine of pace, and I thought, oh, that's a good one. I've got a list here from 2023. Mandatory work for prisoners, Indigenous rights, hate speech legislation, free speech in university, COVID-19 mandate review, Section 7AA Oranga Tamariki, 4-year government terms, co-governance, gender, sexuality education, heavy industry investment, essential workers, live animal ban, maternity care birthing units, first responder prison officer assault legislation, coward punch legislation, skilled migrant category visas, personal grievances, minimum wage, public service pay.
Breathe, Jen, breathe.
These are all, and I'm up to the 7th of December on this list of the shit they have just been pushing through, and that doctrine of pace. And this is exactly what, you know, when you sort of go back and look at what happened 1840, even before there was a constitutional arrangement here, boom, 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 it was pace. You know, it's the same things that happened then at the same pace, and I don't think I've never seen it this fast. Like I've always been interested in politics. I I've never seen it this fast. What do you
Okay,
think?
you know what this is called? This is actually called
White
unfettered
supremacy?
power without borders. And
Yes,
this,
exactly, fire.
we saw this in the Middle East. This is unfettered power without borders. So
Kato
what
fire.
happens is that you're piling on.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Yeah.
you're piling on, what you're doing is that you're assuming that the people themselves will be no better and that you have to rely on them. That's where the unfettered power comes from. And this is what we're seeing. But this isn't a short-term game they're playing. They're playing a long-term game. Has anybody figured out the long-term game yet? I
No, it
did
is.
the
It
other
is a
day.
short. I think it's a short-term game. They're doing it so fast and hard because they know they're a one-term government, and so they're pushing in as much as they can early on, so that we hopefully forget about it, and knowing that they're not likely to be in again, so they're trying to get in as much as possible in that way, in a really fast way, so they can break the system to the point that not everything will be able to be reversed.
Okay, here's an alternative, but also similar to that. Is it in case they're a one-term government, in the event that they are, they will be able to leave the next government with a whole lot of stuff to pick up and tidy up, which will cost a lot of money, which will strengthen their case while they're in opposition to say, see, look, they can't do it. You need us back again.
Yeah, it's a double sword. Yeah, it's definitely a double sword in that respect. Definitely.
I'm of the same opinion of Ngāti down here. This is actually changing the fabric of the
Yes.
country itself. It's changing the politics of the country. It's making assumptions for which the average person cannot understand. And after a while, similar to the Trumpism that's going on now, is that at the end of the day, people are picking one thing and they're saying, well, what's the best thing about this person? We'll just go with that. And especially when you've got boomer mentality, you've got to remember that in my generation, I mean, you know, aroha mai to you fellas, you don't look like you come from the boomer generation as I do. We're about to actually exit from the sphere. We're going to die, okay? But it's the next generation that's come in. Already we know in Trumpianism that we've got poor education. And this is a way to dumb down the community. And that's what this has been. For what? Is because they want to sell out the resources. They want to sell the country. Please don't be deceived by it. That's what they're going to do. They're working back everything so they can say, well, we managed to do that. We will outsource it. We saw this in Australia. We saw this in the Middle East. Please don't think that this is something in front of you. It's about changing the fabric of this country. And our question that we should be asking ourselves is, are we prepared to accept this? For me, Carl.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with everything you've just said, Fire, and this what you have described is where I started at the beginning of this year, because I could understand. I knew where this was all going to end up by the time we got to the middle of the year and the bill was going to be released. So I started there, and I wrote my final master's paper on exactly what you've talked about, because I saw all of that and I went, right, what can I do about it with my one little person?
Kia ora.
But what I did was I wrote my final master's paper on the possibility of the Supreme Court, if the TPP did get passed, the possibility that the Supreme Court could assume a power to strike down that legislation. And the reason why I picked that topic specifically...
So you want to unravel it?
Well, no, because what you are talking about is exactly what I saw happening as well. And what you said is exactly why, is that this particular parliament has been exercising its power in a manner that is upsetting the constitutional balance. And this specific bill, it's not a normal piece of legislation like all of the other pieces of legislation. It's actually attacking part of our constitution. And the reason I wrote that paper is because I wanted that idea to get out there and started to be debated amongst our colleagues and our academic friends, which it now has been. But the underlying kind of, if everything really, really, really goes tits up and it goes to second reading and goes further than that, I honestly do think that we would be in a situation of potential constitutional crisis. And
it's
we would
dangerous.
we would have to make a decision if it went that far as to what we would do as Māori if they're not going to honour the treaty, which that would 100% be the end of the treaty. Then we would be looking at, do we secede from the Crown? Do we form our own government? Those are the really big, meaty constitutional questions. But you're right. What's behind it all is this massively well-funded, well-resourced overseas interests that are just spreading this to each country. It's literally a copy and paste. You're going from one country to the next, and they're removing everything that is a threat to them being able to come in and exploit the resources, and the treaty and us are the number one biggest threat to them to stop them doing that. So all of this is all about that. You're 100% on the money right there, Whaea.
Aye.
You know what makes me
gotta
mad though?
Go Spiderhoof. Go
Sorry.
Spiderhoof.
What makes me mad is I was saying this 18 months ago. I was telling everyone 18 months ago, this is what's going to happen if this government gets in place. ACT's going to be there. They always knew ACT was going to be part of the coalition because, only once in our history has a government got in with only one party getting all the votes that they need. So there was always the coalition between ACT and National. And I was saying all of this 18 months ago. We cannot let these people through. They are going to rewrite Te Tiriti. They're going to take away human rights because they were saying it all along, but nobody was listening. Or the response was, nah, that can't happen. Nah, they wouldn't. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's real. I know that, Luxon will stop it, or they think that someone magically will stop it. But no, that's what they campaigned together on. Luxon knew what ACT wanted to do. ACT knew what Luxon wanted to do.
Absolutely.
And they did it collaboratively. It was always going to be this way. And I told everyone I possibly could. And that so many people were just like, I can't believe that would happen. There's no way that kind of thing could happen.
People are still saying it now.
And now people
are even now they still don't believe
after
it.
The election. And that makes me mad. Sorry.
Yeah, no, 100%. And
I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about the rest of the world.
The dissonance is still going on.
It is still going on.
Oh no, it's not. No, you're overthinking it. You're reading
people
too
all
much
the time.
into it.
People all the time they say, "Oh, it's not going to happen. What are you so worried about?"
But I think we're all doing as the best that we can. And yes, Spiderhoof, you were right. You were talking about this 18 months ago. But David Seymour even said that he was going to attack Te Tiriti, and Māori still didn't come out and vote. It's the same old within New Zealand.
Have any of you guys ever sat down and thought to yourself that when political parties rise, when they maranga, what happens is they've always got the leverages and the puppets there that work in the wings. When this government came in, when National came in, the first thing I thought, without even knowing what ACT were doing, I thought, there's puppet number one and there's puppet number two. What have they got inside their portfolio? So it didn't take rocket science to work out very quickly that in order to pass a bill, you need quite a lot of volume inside that content in order to put the bill through. So what do? You use leverages and you use tools that you can throw under the bus. Now, regardless of what you may think of David Seymour,
he's smart.
He's just the puppet they're going to throw him down the bus, and National are still going to get what they want.
Absolutely.
And how I knew this was when they said you do not have to be in New Zealand. You do not have to be in New Zealand to put a submission in. And the first thing I thought, you mongrels, you know why? Is because Māori are out there saying, let's get our people in Australia, Ngāti Te Reo, go and put your submission in. But hey, listen very carefully. There's 500,000 New Zealanders in Australia. Only 17% of it make up of Māori. That's all it is. The rest are Pākehās, and most of them, 63% of those living in Australia, they're boomers.
Yeah.
I think from
That's
my
when I
perspective,
realised.
Go Rihanna. Go Rihanna.
oh
Go,
yeah, sorry, I
Rihanna.
just wanted to chip in just because I had one for Carl on this kaupapa. I think the key thing that heaps of us, like all of us, myself included, forget is that the majority of Māori aren't actually engaged in Māori issues. Like they don't know their reo, they don't know their marae, they don't know their iwi. But I think it's really hard to mobilise and get Māori who aren't in the really positive spaces of being Māori to come out and defend when there's a lot of negative kōrero about Māori. And so for me, that's a kind of key focus and, you know, whatever I'm doing, which is just a bit random, but is trying to target that group of Māori who don't actually realise how beautiful and special it is to be Māori and what the Māori world brings, to hopefully get them on board with that, which then is a step before going forward and defending it in a political space, because more Māori voted for National than Te Pāti Māori, so yeah, that's my thoughts on
I
that.
think when you look at the way Māori, especially here, framing themselves in Australia, it's been rather difficult for me to be able to have that kōrero, because quite a lot have come with mamai as well, of what happened to them, what happened to their people. They came here for economic reasons. They never came here because they loved the sand pit and everything else that come with the sunburned country. They came here for economic reasons. So it's been very difficult to empower Māori to say to them, hey, listen, this is what's happening at home. Very, very hard. But does that mean that me, myself, because as you fellas know, I live in Western Australia, me, myself, do I roll over and stay on my bed? No. If it just takes one person, and if I'm able to sit there and get one person to write a submission, I've done my job and I'm happy, thank you very much. But, Rihanna, I do take that on board because it has been difficult. In the 79 submissions that I helped write, from just putting a little ad out, of those 79, only 7 were from Australia. All the rest were from home. You know what I mean? And it's like bashing your head against the windscreen and saying, no, this can't be happening. But then if we were to sit there and say, no, I'm defeated, and take a defeatist approach, then we lose. We lose. So my question and my part I hear for all of you fellas is, what do we do? I only have one solution, and that is to educate our people and make it as simple as we can. I don't know anything else. So if you ladies and you, RT, can help me, kei te pai. I've still got 2 weeks to go in my head. So somebody help me to rally these people here.
Do you guys want to take a turn to answer Whaea's question?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a pretty straightforward plan too, Whaea. I had 2 tasks this year, which were, again, I think a lot of us are probably feeling the exhaustion of the year in general. But my 2 tasks that I gave myself was, one, to write my paper, because that was my contribution to the backstop, basically. And then my second task that I just took on in the last month or so was to try and educate as many people as possible on how to make a submission, make it as easy as possible for them to understand, and to just try and join the 2 worlds that I walk in, because I know that I'm very privileged to be able to walk in one world where there's all these very intelligent, educated, smart people, but how do I bring that and bridge that world with my whānau, my son, all of these other people that a massive thirst for the information and the knowledge, and they want to do something. So for me, it's about how do I teach other people and connect the 2 worlds together. So that's where my focus has been, and very much on trying to bring the law to a place where it's not so scary for our people, and this information, which can be very overwhelming, all of this, you know, this bill, all of the stuff that's happening can be very overwhelming, and a lot of people have come up to me on the street and said thank you, you know, this mahi. But for me, it's a privilege, like it's an absolute privilege to be able to help people to understand what's going on, but also to empower them so they don't feel so helpless. So many people feel very helpless and downtrodden at the moment. I had a kōrero with some beautiful queer when I was at hearing in Rotorua last week, and they said that they felt very helpless about what they could do to help their mokopuna, to help everyone else going on. So I helped them do their submissions when we were having a cup of tea. But it's just, I mean, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. Even though we're only individuals and we're only able to do so much, even those little things, like what you said, you're one person, you've helped 70 odd people make a submission, like that's massive. And I think if each of us just does what we can and tries not to win out in the process, make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your whānau first and foremost. But then if you do have extra time and you do have extra energy, I set myself a goal of I wanted to try and do as much as I possibly could to get as many people to make a submission in the lead up to Christmas. So I'm still committed to that. I've still got one more day of mahi left, but I'm still trucking on. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
What about you, Rihanna?
Kia ora.
And then I'll go to Third Space and then Spiderhoof.
Sorry, what was the question again? I was
About-
actually want to ask Tans a question. It was just going off your quarter. I was just listening hard out.
Okay,
But-
go.
On that, what you were saying before about recognizing that's really exhausting for people. I've had so many people ask me to make a video about the regulatory standards bill, and I've really hesitated only because we know that it's already been agreed to in the coalition agreement. And so I've been really hesitant to kind of ask people to put energy into submitting on something that's almost already a given. But be keen to get your whakaaro on that and whether or not you think it's worthwhile just doing the education and bridging the gap bit, or
I had the exact same whakaaro, and that's why when I saw Third Space making content about it, I was like, yay! Because, I mean, I do think it's a really important bill, and we had a little bit of a kōrero about it before. I'm not sure if you were here. And it's one of those pieces of legislation that it's just a bugger. I can't swear because I don't want to get kicked off, but it's a really insidious piece of legislation, and they're sneaking it through while we're all busy trying to put submissions on the treaty principles bill. I have the same concerns you have, Rihanna. There's only so much energy and only so much time that each of us have. And that's why, because people were asking me the exact same question, and I kept referring them to Third Space because I was like, look, here's my little bugbear. This is what I've sort of chosen to try and help people understand. And the reason why I am so passionate about opposing the TPB, and I agree with Rihanna, I think that the regulatory standards bill is a done deal. And I struggle with, are we even going to get any sort of movement on it if we did make submissions, and are we just going to have to like it all and live with it for the next couple of years? That's kind of where I got to in my own thought process on it, Rihanna.
Third Space?
Kia ora. Yeah, it's massive. As you've just both been talking, I've been thinking, one of the easiest things we can do for those who are concerned about it is we can actually transfer our submissions from the TPB and email the RSB consultation. So we can actually, for those of us who are like, there's so much going on and it is a very complex bill and consultation piece, that we can just take what we've submitted in our treaty principles bill submissions and email that through, because it still stands. It's huge, right? Because I guess the thing that I've been really digging into, and this has come from the work that Melanie Nelson and a group of us have been doing online, we've developed a bit of an everyday guide, which has now just been finalised. It took a lot longer than what I thought because we wanted to make sure it was really clear. And like you've all said, it is a deliberately complex thing, and it has already been agreed to be passed. But I do think there is a massive value in us understanding what this means for Te Tiriti and for absolutely every single decision when it comes to regulation looking ahead, and that it's not necessarily limited to just this government. So what they lock in now, the deals that they lock in through with their big business, with the mining, with the tobacco, with the 1080, with the water infrastructure, with roads, whatever it is, if they've got big business interests and they lock into a contract now, potentially any future government could find it very hard to unwind and get out and change that without those big businesses that are, of course, coming at us for compensation. Whether that would happen or not, I don't know. Like, I'm a cynic like you, Tans. I think we've all probably got that, that kind of lens on it where we're like, well, don't 100% have that case for optimism right now. But I think something that I really want to lean into here, and it's Melanie's gone into it in her interviews, which she does a fantastic job interviewing Jane Kelsey and people who have got a heck of a lot more knowledge than I'll ever have, is how these two bills side by side, while they're presented as ways to clarify rights and improve transparency and make things fair and equal, they're actually really going to shift power away from not only the collective rights and utility obligations, but towards the rights of these big businesses and corporations. So when they're talking about individuals, they're not talking about you and me. They're talking about individuals as business, as entities. But when we look at the Treaty Principles Bill and we look at how the wording isn't the rights of all New Zealanders, it's the rights of everyone. So if I side by side that and go, okay, the rights of everyone, are we talking about all New Zealanders, or are we talking about, in the light of the RSB, the rights of individuals? Is that the rights of everyone? That's quite concerning to me, that we could be talking about the rights of these big corporations in terms of this newly revised Principle 3 that Seymour's put forward. So I feel like coming back to the practical, actual factuals of what we can do, like seeing lots of comments about, how can we overthrow this government and those, big things. I think we have to come back to what's practical. And if there's one thing, if you've done a Treaty Principles Bill submission and you're concerned about the RSC, just copy and paste that over and chuck an email through. Because I think we can change the shape of this if enough of us say, we are concerned about what you're talking about when it comes to individual rights. We're talking about the long-term issues, the possibility of entrenchment. I think we just have to have a say if we've got the capacity to do so.
Spiderhoof?
So there are some simple ways to make submissions against the Treaty Principles Bill. The first place you should go is the opposition websites. So on the Labour site, there is two ways you can sign. You can sign their petition, which is just simply adding your name and your email address, and that's it. And that is just as good as creating your own submission. And so really we should be promoting those things a lot because it's so easy. You just click on it, you write your name, you add your email, done. But it also tells you how to make your own submission as well if you prefer to do it that way. But for those of us who don't want to write dirty things.
Spiderhoof, Taiho, can you write the website down there? Because this is the first I've known about it. That would help me greatly here. I'm talking myself hoarse every day.
Just labour.org.nz. So can somebody who just heard me say that type that in? Sorry.
So the reason that I haven't been promoting those ones is because I heard that if there's a single one of those submissions that is offensive, every one gets biffed out. So that's the main reason.
That's not true. That's not true. If there's an individual submission, then it's an individual submission and that's warranted on its own merits. But the one where you can sign the submission that they've written, i.e. Labour Party have written, all you do is put your name and your address. There's no room to write anything else. So it's very, very, very simple.
So it's just a signature.
60 seconds. That's it. Yeah, your name and your email address and hit submit. That's it.
Yes. I've got to go now. I've got hundreds of people. Hundreds of mokopuna I'm going to bloody well write to right now. I don't have time here to talk.
I'm assuming that there's one on the Green side and Party Māori as well, but I'm not sure. But 100% the Labour site has it. It's all there, ready. Just click. That's it.
Labour.org.nz.
Yeah.
Why didn't you fellas tell me this a month ago?
Hey, I'll give you another one, Whaea. I just saw
Okay.
on LinkedIn yesterday, is it tuhono.nz? I'll chuck it in the chat, but it's an
Yeah.
app that somebody has made where you can build your own treaty principle submission, and it's a click through, and you can add your own whakaaro, or you can use what's on there and click through. I'll drop it in, but it's our tuhono.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh my
there's
goodness.
there's another one too.
you
I'll chuck it
fellas-
in there for you. There's quite a few.
You fellas need to make a video for old ducks like me.
I shall.
There's a lot of
shall.
us here. And make a video and say, go here, sign it, and it's away. You're done.
Yeah, and if you're going through the opposition parties, and I know there's lots of other ones out there, and I'm sure they're genuine and they're great and everything, but these guys have been doing it for decades. They know what to say, they know what's been said, they know how to do it right, if you know what I mean. So they're very practiced at it. So that's the only reason I sort of err to the side of, hey, stick with the opposition party website.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
But and you can read what they've written. They've written it very beautifully, and it's exactly what I want to say. So yeah, just click on the link, and then write your name, and then write your email address. The end.
Easy.
Easy.
Some yeah.
Aye.
I want to go back to talking about Maori being united. So you may have or may not have seen that Mr. Brian Tamaki has just put out a rant about Maori being fooled by the elite and blah 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 blah.
Projection.
Yeah, he's not getting any of the headlines, so he's coming out. He's attacking Maori. There's a with him it's about money, so he's getting paid to do that. But then you got TikTok creators like Auntie Hey Hey. I don't know if you know who Auntie Hey Hey is.
She's still alive.
She's still alive, mate. She's gone through so many accounts, and she's still out there advocating against Maori.
Is she in relation to Rolly Hey Hey?
Oh, no idea. I don't even know if Hey Hey's her name, but that's her account name.
Somebody's old enough.
But-
Somebody's old enough. I knew somebody would be old enough.
got
to
it.
know that.
I was up at home. I'm up at home for a tangi, and Te Pakanga o Hahiwai. Does that sound familiar? It's the Battle of Ohahiwai in 1845.
Oh, that's old. That's old.
Yeah, 1845. There is now a church there to symbolise the battle that went on there. But along with the British troops was a Maori by the name of Tamati Wakanehe, who fought alongside the British. So in 1845, 5 years after Te Tiriti was signed, we had Maori fighting Maori. And this goes back, way back, from what I learnt today, is generally we had 3 days for tangi. Well, this battle, there were 3 days of negotiations while the British brought reinforcements in to take the pa. They turned up with 650 soldiers, along with Tamati Waka. 650 soldiers. They couldn't penetrate the Waka, the pa, but it eventually fell. And I'm not sure if it was the first battle in the New Zealand Wars, but I visited the site today, and there's just a shivers load of information. So when we're talking about Māori supporting Māori, unless we unite, we're always going to have people disagreeing. You got things like Waipareta Trust, and who are the ones that are jumping on it and anti the Waipareta Trust now getting their charity status taken away? It's Māori attacking them, you know. So we have a lot of work to do. Again, we have 315,000 registered Māori voters who did not vote at the last election. We need those voters. We need those voters if we're going to overturn this government in 1 year. And when we look at the forces that we're working against, which is the media, because RNZ is state owned, and so is One News. So they're not they're not partial to a side. They're apolitical. I like to think they are. But then you've got stuff that's independently owned. You've got New Zealand Herald, who's very right leaning. Anything that comes up about the Greens, and it's the New Zealand Herald that breaks the story and slams them like a million times over, because all their subscribers are, I won't use the words that controversial Kiwi took offence to from a nickel more, but you get the point. So long term, we have to be wary of what's it called, voter fatigue. That there's so much going on, we're doing so much work that when it comes to really doing the mahi, everyone becomes tired. That's just my thoughts. What do you guys think?
This is a real thing, by the way, because election year is when it's the most important. And I know that it's really important now, but election year is going to be so much of our energy. It's going to be insane. I've been through it once, being a content creator, and it's really, really hard. Really hard. But it's rewarding when people in your comments say, oh my God, I've just changed my mind about who I'm voting for. And so it is really rewarding as well that people actually do change their minds or decide to vote even or register. That is rewarding, but it's hard work election year. Really hard. Sorry to scare you. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's definitely some issues in terms of, strategically, how do we ensure that when it comes to the next election, number one, that we are as organised and as united as we can possibly be, which is essentially what Kiniti Heitia was trying to say at the beginning of this year, is, this government's going to do what this government's going to do. And while it does, we should be working on our kotahitanga, and we should be working on mobilising ourselves so that we are ready when the next opportunity comes around. So I definitely think that a lot of the mahi that everybody has been doing at the moment is contributing towards that. But what we really need to do sort of long-term, looking forward to the next election, and I'm doing this already with my friends and other people that are within my kind of networks that we will strategize together, is that everything we're doing now has a focus moving forward, and everything we do in terms of educating people about the TPB, how to make submissions, just empowering them with a little bit more knowledge about our political system and how it works, all of that should be part of a conversation that's ongoing with everyone that we're connecting with to move them towards that place. And it shouldn't be a last minute rush, everybody get on the roll, everybody get involved. Like, we should be doing that as we go along. And that's essentially my goal with where this has started. Initially, I was only going to make one video. That was all I was intending to do. But now that I've seen how massive the demand and, how many people need help and how many people just want someone to explain things in a video, like Whaea said, can you just tell me how to do it? Like, there's so much there's so much that people need in order to be able to participate, which sounds like, people are like, well, how come they can't vote? How come they can't figure out who to vote for? How come they can't figure this? You know what I mean? But if you don't understand, if your entire bloody economic base has been taken away from you for generations and you've grown up just trying to bloody survive, which is where most of our people have come from, they don't have the capacity to think about things beyond, where's my next kai coming from? How am I going to pay the rent? How am I, you know what I mean? It's a totally different conversation for most of our people. So to berate them or to criticize them for, oh, well, why aren't you all voting? Well, shit, because I'm trying to put food on the table and I'm trying to figure out if I've got somewhere to live, or I'm trying to look after my children. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's such an easy kick in the guts, and I get sick of people doing it to our people and saying that, for whatever reason, Māori aren't participating. And I'm like, yeah, well, if you understood the multitude of barriers that most of our people have just to survive, you'd probably understand why we've got low participation rates in everything, not just the political system. But anyway, my personal kind of goal for that moving forward is to keep this momentum that has already begun and has, you know, we are coming together more. We are being more active. There are more people that are motivated and are activating than ever before. I have friends who I would say are the people that Rana was talking about earlier that, you know, might not necessarily be out there and proud to be Māori, but so many of my friends that I would put in that category are starting to activate, and they're starting to wake up. I've had friends that have never been on a hikoi before in their life that went on their very first hikoi this year, because it's literally waking up some of my friends that are Māori that have not got connections to their taha Māori, and even they're starting to go, this isn't right and I need to do something about it. So yeah, I think it's just, we have to be a little bit more hopeful. There's lots of really ugly stuff going on, but there's also a lot of really beautiful, amazing things happening. When I went to go and see my son's kura, that was probably the thing that filled my cup the most in this entire year, was seeing these 11-year-olds who can get up and kōrero in their reo and express themselves so strongly and so beautifully about their rights under te tiriti. That gives me a massive amount of hope, because no matter what this woman does, those kids are growing up with that from that age, and by the time they get to be bloody teenagers, they're like, my hopes for the future are really bright. So yeah, that's
Put that one in,
oh, honestly,
100%.
these kids are like, I'm like, bro, we're good. This next generation is, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Did some work with some rangatahi as well, same age group, like 11, 12-year-olds, 11 to 13-year-olds. And it was so cool, this one moment where one of them looked at me and said, wait, what? We're actually doing this. Like, we actually can. And it was just so cool. I was like, you, babe, like, press that button. Like, you are actually submitting. And I've said it before on some of these lives, you know, like, there is a generation of awake, of activated, politically minded, social justice rangatahi who are coming through, hei tangata whenua, hei tangata tiriti, hei tangata moana, ngā hauewha, you know, and it is so beautiful seeing that. And it's like, if there's one thing that this has done, it has grounded us into the hope of our rangatahi and what they are going to activate now. They will never forget this. They will never forget those hikoi. They will never forget those activations. They will not forget these conversations. And that is just so beautiful. I guess what I kind of come back to, and again, listening to you talking, Tans, about, you know, that just keeping the doors open for people, not shutting people off, not getting into these binary spaces of like, oh, well, you know, you don't know, or you know, rights and wrongs, or judging people for whether or not they have or haven't been engaged. And that's where I see there's a real potential in TikTok and Instagram, where it's short form content, where it can kind of titrate in and people can just get to know things and learn things at their own pace. But also I think in our everyday conversations, you know, like COVID did a number on us when it comes to playing in the grey and being able to sit in a nuanced space and have someone that doesn't know or doesn't agree or doesn't align. And I think we need to pull back from that and sit more in those spaces of asking questions and helping people along and understanding really quite keenly and deeply what are those issues, what are those reasons why people aren't engaged in voting. Like, I've seen some of it on the comments here, like it's overcomplicated. People just see there's no point. Now our rangatahi don't think that, but a lot of our grown-ups do feel really disconnected. So I just want to take a lot of care, I guess, in not disconnecting people further.
And also recognising that even though we've got heaps of rangatahi coming up that are part of the kura kaupapa, they're still very much the minority. We've got huge wait lists to get into the kura kaupapa, and also most of our kids are still in mainstream.
Yeah, it's a crazy percentage, eh?
Yeah. Tika,
When I
Thank
talk
you.
of
Well, I
non,
have to go. My nephew's crying, but it was so awesome to have a quarter of this tonight. Tane te mihi. Hea
Tana
whini.
Shot
koutou,
Rihanna.
hape,
kumari,
haere.
Spider, hope you were going to say something.
when I talk of
Yeah.
non-voters, I talk of non-left voters. I don't, because I'm not Maori, in case nobody sees my face very often, but I'm not Maori. So it's not just Maori that have to step up, though. It can't all
That's right.
be on
yeah,
on
Aye.
on you guys. It's not. And so I did my first hikoi this year as well, to be honest. I believe it was my first one. So I see a lot of people in I don't know, it's a culture, I don't even know. But I see a lot of people who also are like, oh shoot, we're going to have to step in and do something kind of thing, rather than just, let elections happen. It happens across every race in New Zealand. If you're on the left, you just think that everything's going to be fine, and it's not. And I think a lot of people are going, oh shit, why did I vote for National? This isn't what I expected at all. I think there's a lot of that voters' remorse going on. And so we need to build on that, and for everybody to understand that it is easy to fill in a submission or anything else, but don't let's put those racist tactics back behind the shadows, like back underground at least, because this isn't New Zealand. This isn't how we are. It's not right. Yeah.
Aye. Aye.
Um,
I guess.
so
Oh, sorry.
if we are,
my
no,
mind.
that's all right. Fine. I'll just say this, and then you can go next. If we really, really, really want to look at how we can make a change in 2 years, we have an opportunity next year with the local body. We've got the local body elections, and it's a great opportunity for those who haven't really voted in the general election to actually put some practice into the local body and turn up. Maybe that's something we can do over the next 2 years, instead of being criticizing the government like I do with all my content. As much as I do, I could start promoting some positive outcomes that we should be out there. I think it's October next year, and looking at local body. I mean, if you live in Auckland, for example, the headline was today, whatever his name, Brown, popularity would probably win a second term, and then somebody came in and said, oh, hold on, was he the same mayor that through the floods in Auckland didn't react and lives were lost? So is this an opportunity for us to advocate for voting and use this as a template for the one that really matters? Just a thought.
I've got thoughts on that for sure. We've already had so our election cycle's out with everyone else's because Tauranga had bloody dramas and the whole council got the sack. So we had our election early.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so one of my
Naughty.
friends, Rhea Hall, ran for me here, and ran a great campaign as well. And we all tried as hard as we could to back Rhea, and to be fair, she did run a really good campaign, and there were a lot of people that got out and supported her. And it was difficult, but we did basically what you've just suggested, and all of the local Māori kind of rallied behind her to try and get her elected as mayor, which wasn't successful, but at the same time there was a lot of wins out of that. It just kind of showed everybody that it is possible for Māori to run for, to be the mayor of one of our biggest cities, to run for the election. And I definitely do think it's one of those things that we could do in a positive way. Again, educate people on the system, educate people on how to vote in a local body election. So many people have no idea how to do that. Look at who's running in the different elections and be strategic about, sort of where support goes. All of those things are really practical, everyday things that we could do when the elections roll around. And I totally agree that it's something that we should be looking at.
We contacted.
Something that I didn't,
Is that me or
sorry,
you?
something I didn't mention. Something I didn't mention earlier about the submission on the Labour side, or submission by however you want to. There's no age limit on it, so you can, if you're under 16 or 18 out there and want to do something about it, you can sign it too. So don't think that's just for voters. It's for New Zealanders. It's not just for voters.
Okay, I suppose
That's
it's my
fine.
turn.
Yeah.
So, going back to the original question, Māori supporting Māori, I think it's got a historical content to it, in that if we go back to the dawn of time when Māori came to Aotearoa, we weren't known as Māori, we were nations of people. You weren't, and when they spoke on the paipai to rohe from, other iwi and other hapu, they never called them the Māori from Waitotara. No. You were known as, Ngāti Tuputo. So as nations, if you can understand this, as nations, if you look around the world, it just seems strange. You just take it on board that when New Zealand speaks with Australia, Australia has their own whakaaro, New Zealand has their whakaaro. United States have their whakaaro, New Zealand has their whakaaro. Everybody has this, but it's interesting that they take Māori and say we're all fighting each other and not supporting each other, when the conversations that are taking place, whether it is on the marae, on the ate, the mahu, wherever it is nations of people talking to each other. And that in itself is more so, I like to describe it when I was teaching at university. I used to describe it, the first United Nations was never ever born after World War II. It was born at the marae, because that's what everybody did. We already know to do this, but because we've got other particular groups say, oh no, that's just called fighting. But let's not disease it with what really happened. And that's the reason why Māori discuss different ways. Ngā puhi have a different whakaaro to Aotea. Kei te pai?
It's by.
The whakaaro on Kahanunu is different to the whakaaro of Poneke. Te Waipounamu, it's all different. And that is what makes Māori who they are today. Without us, now I've always said, we never got to where we are today without having robust discussions. Māori would not be alive. We have been imprisoned, we have been colonised, everything has been stricken from us, but we're still here. And it's because of our uniqueness why we are here. So that's the first thing of all. The second thing is that what is being discussed here is that the points are, we need to activate, we need to engage, we need to do all of these things, we need to help each other. That can never happen in a political sphere. The only way you get that to happen is just one word, it's called trust. If you don't have the trust of those that are leading you, you cannot leave. Let's take Trump, for example. People trust him. Why? We don't know. Man talks tika all day. He tells you he's talking tika and does something else, but he has the trust of the people.
No.
Brian
So
Tamaki.
I'm going to correct that. So I got to correct that. Kamala didn't have the trust. That's what it was. They didn't trust a woman of non-European nationality, and so they chose the white guy instead. So it wasn't that they trust him.
Whatever
it was that
the
they didn't
complications. So whatever the complications is, it's still formed and framed in a constructive manner of trust. Because trust is the only thing that has ever got people across the line. How they frame up the trust, that's where politics come into it. But to answer one of those questions is how do we get our people to trust us, and how do we organise ourselves so that they do trust that we go forward? Honest to goodness, you would not trust somebody like me. I've got a political background. And I'm telling you don't trust me, but trust in my neighbour who is a lawyer. It's not rocket science, is it? But I'm just saying there are certain people in the community that in order to organise ourselves, let's get smart about it. Use those that whom we can trust and we know will not deliver greed. And that's very difficult to do in the political space because it's very hard to understand causation. Because a lot of Māori, and unfortunately for the rest of the world, Māori can smell bullshit at 10 feet. Okay? They know it coming across their windscreens. And that's the thing our people have always done. They've not quite understood it, but this is why they're so unique, because they can smell the BS coming at them at 1,000 miles an hour. They also can smell mana, when somebody has mana. We know it as mana. Pākehā know it as trust. So then you then sit there and you say to yourself, who has the mana to lead our people? You answer that question, you've got yourself organised. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora. Third space, you got anything you want to add?
Just realised I was on mute. I was going,
I was too.
I thought you fell asleep.
Yes, fire. This is deep. Yes, this is right.
She's
right.
When you go,
She's 100%
when
on
you
the
go
money.
when you go from the past and come forward, you know very clearly what you're looking at. Who is that person?
Oh,
Who
100%.
we know
100%.
carries that mana,
Yeah.
and
this
that
is-
mana that's come from the past.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things that is inherently Māori, right? And it doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter, like, everything is almost irrelevant when you listen to someone who speaks and exudes mana. And we as Māori just naturally gravitate towards that, right? And you're right, we can tell someone that's lying or that's telling kaka or that, you know, has an ulterior motive. We can tell it a mile away, and because we'll just stand there and look at them and go, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I can see what's coming out of your mouth, but it doesn't quite match the vibe that you're giving off.
And that's why I tell people,
that's
don't
Brian
pick me.
Tamaki for me, right? When I see Brian Tamaki talk, that's exactly how I feel. I can hear the words coming out of his mouth, but none of it's tika, none of it registers, you know, with my wairua that I'm getting from him. It's just not, you know, it doesn't register. But you're right. For me anyway, what I've been really excited about and what's given me some hope in this last year of things that haven't been so hopeful is watching Hannah and watching the way that she's developed through this year. She's still a very, very young wahine Māori, but the way that she's handled, you know, these big things that have been placed on her very young shoulders at this tender age, it's just been amazing to watch. And for me, that's a reflection of mana that you can't teach. You know what I mean? There's mana that you can kind of learn and that you can hone it, and you know, you can get really good at speaking, you can get really good at lots of different skills that will give you a type of mana. But then there's mana it's just there, right? And for me, Hannah has that type of mana. She has that very natural.
She actually did over the parliament.
Yeah,
she did it by tearing that document. She ripped into the soul of the people.
Absolutely. And for me, like, the reason why that video went so viral and why people all around the world watched it and went, holy, what's going on here? I don't know what that is, but I'm resonating with that. And it's exactly that. They could feel the wairua stirring, and we could all feel it because we all went, oh, okay, guys, this is it. This is it. We're all waking up now. It's time to go, because we recognise the display of mana that she put on. That's what it was.
Yeah. I'm disappointed in Hannah for one reason. She's too young. I'm going to be dead and gone before she comes into her power.
Oh, I don't know.
Very disappointed with that girl. She's got one. By the time, you know, good 30 years, what is she going to look like? And I'm going to be going, I'm going to be bloody pushing up daisies.
Nah, you can hang on, Fire. You can hang on. I'm looking forward to
You'll be around.
But I totally what you're saying, because the thing that I have to explain quite often to my Pākehā mates, because they ask me this question all the time. They're like, oh, why doesn't so-and-so just do this? Or why doesn't so-and-so just do that? And why, you know what I mean? And I keep saying to them, it's because we don't respond to mana that isn't real. You know what I mean? We don't respond to manufactured mana the way that, you know, David Seymour, that's an example of what I would call manufactured mana, because it's totally not real. It's just being created by a corporate bloody underbelly, and he's literally just a puppet that they've invented to be their front man for all of these different, you know, ideological concepts, and essentially just to be their little bum boy so that they can push the agenda that they want to for this particular government and moving forward. But the complete opposite of that, which is what I love about it, which is so organic and so pure and so authentic, is Hana. She's literally his dichotomy. So I actually really love seeing how that's all playing out, and how she's just been plonked in the middle of this bloody cesspit at the moment, but she's responding to it so well.
I think
and
she
she's not
actually
letting it overwhelm her, which is great.
I think she actually upsets Winston more than she upsets.
Oh yeah.
Does she?
She upsets everybody.
And you know why?
It's not just Winston.
You know why? It's because he's jealous that everybody admires and respects her, because nobody admires and respects her.
Yeah, no, he's got his heckles up, jams up. So what you're talking about with when you can recognise somebody who is trustworthy just by them walking in the room, kind of thing, I refer to it as that person came into the room with their ancestors on their shoulders, like that they had everybody who in their whole history pushing them forward and making them great. And it doesn't have to be with Māori, but I do see it with Māori most, to be honest. But yeah, so your confidence is that they're from your past and your heritage and everything else, but it's like looking at your ancestors on your shoulders, looking after you and keeping you straight, sort of thing. So it's I recognize it too. It's amazing.
Often if I'm asked to speak, and when I was at the uni, I used to be a very shy, believe it or not, you may not believe this, but I used to be very quiet and very shy, until one day I met a man called Sam Makinda, and he was a Supreme Court judge, and I took him on because I believed that what he was talking was absolute tika. And when I stood up, you're quite correct, Spider, I had all my tupuna crawling up my spine. And when I let go at him, I was expected to be thrown out of the lecture hall. They gave me a job instead. But the point was, and still is today, is the Pākehā knows it is trust. We know it is mana. We know bullshit coming at us at 1,000 miles an hour, and you better get yourself correct, because if you go back to the marae, I had 6 nannies that used to sit behind our pop-ups, you know, our koro in front, and if the koro didn't get it right, that tokotoko came out and they used to get a bash on the ankles. So why would it change today when you've been brought up like that? We know what we want. When Hana came onto the world stage, you can't tell me every Māori went like this. They didn't know it. Yep. I see you, titiro mai.
It wasn't just Māori though. There was a whole lot of us that were like,
that was everybody.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Even that was really important.
Hey.
So I come back to the same question right now. Who is that person that can organise us and lead us forward to the next election? Anybody got any ideas?
I think it's
I know who you can't have.
It's a collective.
Yeah. I think it's actually a collective, and they're already standing up as it is. Hana's one of them, but there's more than one. Iru's one of them as well.
Yeah, Edu. Yeah, for sure.
But this is something that so one of my other sort of strategy things that has been coming along with a lot of my networks that we kind of talk behind the scenes with is we have literally been ticking this box that you're talking about, where we can see all of these, especially the young leaders that are coming through and that are activating in their own spaces in their own ways, like Eru has. And what I think is going to just keep going as we get through the next 2 years of this government is they will continue to do that. And they are, especially Eru and the Toitū boys, they're very organised behind the scenes. What they do might seem quite ad hoc to the general public, but it's absolutely strategic. And those boys are smart in terms of how they use their social media platforms, how they use their networks to get messages out when they need to. So I definitely see that there's Hana, there's Eru, our new queen as well. I know that she's still in her period of mourning at the moment, but I really do think that she's going to play a pretty significant role in terms of leadership moving forward. I think in the next couple of years when she comes out of that, I definitely think she'll be more active as well.
I have a question regarding the Queenie.
Hi.
Do you think it was strategic why they went so young and not the brother?
I decline to answer this question on the grounds that I know lots of things about.
So do I. I refuse to answer that question.
So do I, because I keep saying to my dear friend who is with the kingitanga, I ask him the question every day and he goes, "Oh, shut up."
But sometimes it's just got to be the right person for the job. Just like,
Exactly.
You were discussing earlier, ancestors on their shoulders, some of them show it better than others, so we'll just go with that.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got a funny story going back to the Seymour, Winston, Hana kind of dynamic. Our kids went and did a noho marae up in Puniki, and they stayed at Puketea and they went to Parliament, and they met someone outside, David Seymour, who said, and they're all there, they're wearing their toitū tiriti, and they've got all a couple of the kaiako had their he shirts on, and so he came over and said, "Oh, great to see Ngāpuhi here, da, 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 da." And the kids, and I can't take this photo anywhere, but there is a photo that is taken with David Seymour sitting there with this rōpū of like year 5, 6 kids, right? And they are all looking away from him. One of them's like massive side eye. Everyone's kind of awkward looking down. And he said to them, "Oh, you know, who have you come to see?" And they all went, "Hana Rafferty might be Clark." And I just thought, gold. She speaks because she is so who she is, you know, and she says, "I am just who I am. I'm doing just what I am. I can't be anything else." People see that, and it doesn't matter, you know, aha ko no here, aha ko no koe, ko koe. You see that, you feel that, you embody that, and it's inspiring. And I think those are the people that can lead us and that do lead us. It's the authenticity. It's just being who we are in the spaces that we're in, and having the genuineness to not be there for any other reason than to show up and stand up and speak up, rather than, you know, this other sort of, you know, I think about how you can sniff out the bullshit. It's because people are there for an agenda. They're there for themselves. They're there for the individual.
Yeah.
And the people that I follow, the people I've learned so much from, I have so much love for people that I have never met in my life on these social media platforms, because they have that essence of genuineness. And not everyone's going to speak to everyone. And that's okay, because we need different people to reach different people. But I think that mana, that whono, that integrity, that's what's going to get us through, is actually no more bullshit. Like, we're not here for that. Our kids aren't here for that.
That's right.
Tautoko.
So it's been an hour and 45 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap it up. It's always a great chat. I mean, we will obviously be all doing this again. I just want to say personally, I want to apologise for Tamitha not making it tonight. I sent her a message and sent her a link. She hasn't seen it, so I can only assume she's busy. But we made the most of a bad situation. We had a good kōrero. There were lots of DMs here saying that we're enjoying the chats and everything. Tans, thank you for coming in and joining. First time sitting down having a chat with you.
Thanks for the
75, it's good to see you again. Hey, no worries.
I was only just walking by when I saw you.
Yeah. Third space, always an honour. Spiderhoof. But yeah, you guys can all say a word each, and then I thank my moderators, especially Pansy and Waiti. Echo, who's been in there the whole time, Ngāti Professor, thanks heaps to the comments. But Spiderhoof, if you want to have your last say, and then we'll go around, and then I'll end the live. What do you reckon?
Well, thanks for organising this. It has been an enlightening and interesting chat. I've loved it. But if I didn't see anyone beforehand, have a Merry Christmas and be safe out there. And yeah, encourage someone to vote against the current government. No, encourage someone to fill in a submission form. Couple of clicks, all done.
Yes, nice. Third space.
Oh yeah, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou katoa, ki a koe T. Awesome. Thank you for bringing us together for these lives, and really, yeah, loved listening. Loved the comments tonight. Big ups to the mods. You've done awesome, and really lovely to have the kōrero Christmas thoughts. Yeah, instead of letters to Santa, let's do our submission. The best letter to Santa you could even, not Santa, Saint Nick. Let's send our submissions to Saint Nick, and yeah, just wishing you all a beautiful break. Ngā mihi.
Whaea?
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Like I said, coming here, I just walked past and found you guys all in here having a good kōrero. Thank you very much for having me here tonight. I've really appreciated that. I've also thank you all for listening to my rant, because this has been a rant that's been going on for 44 years for me. Thank you very much for everybody else walking up to my rant. As for how we walk into the future, I just want everybody to understand Māori can see bullshit coming at 100 miles an hour, but who is it that you want to stand with you and stand for you? At the moment, I've never found anybody, and the one I have found, I'm going to be dead and gone when she starts to come into her own. But anyway, kei te pai.
Yeah. Tans?
Kia ora no tātou, ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Mō tēnei huihuinga i tēnei pō. I've really enjoyed the kōrero as well and listening to you all. So thank you very much for organising and for inviting me to come on. My 5 cents, I'm just going to tell you the same stuff I've been telling you for the last month. Please make your submission in opposition to the Treaty Principles Bill and the Regulatory Standards Bill as well. I'm going to do both submissions. I haven't done either of mine yet because I've been waiting until I finish mahi so I can put some time and thought into it. But I also just want everyone to try and have a rest over the Christmas break. Try and recharge, because it has been very full on. And as our sister said, the people that do this mahi do it because they are genuine, authentic people, and those types of people tend to give too much of themselves to kaupapa and get burnt out. And I just want all of you to remember to take some time for yourselves and for your whānau over the Christmas holidays, and have a wonderful, safe, Merry Christmas, everybody. Ngā mihi nui.
Awesome.
Kia ora.
Yes, same to you guys. Have a good Christmas. To everyone in the comments, have a good Christmas. I'll still be posting, no doubt. You know, my week never stops. I got to keep going, got to keep everybody informed. But thank you, ladies, for coming on board and doing this. This was awesome. We'll do more of them as we're starting to get used to this sort of thing now. So, yeah, loved it. All right, well, yeah, you guys have a good night. Have a good Christmas if I don't speak to you before then. But, yeah, ka kite.
Po,
Ka kite.
po mai e.
Po Marie.